chargers as far as the eye can see. You know, I'm not sure why so many people dislike this level or have such a hard time with it. It's filled with chargers and big chargers, the best boys that there are. How can anyone dislike a level that primarily consists of chargers? Well, I guess that some people still haven't come around to accepting their embrace, which I suppose is fine. They'll come around eventually. They all do. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. What was I doing again? Oh, yeah, the R4C3 guide. That's right. Well, let's get right into it, shall we? Hello everyone, my name is Professor Scalar. Welcome to the R4C3 guide. Let's start off with your weaponry, specifically your secondary weapons, because those are going to be quite important in this level. In R4C3, you're going to be dealing with a lot of chargers and big chargers, enemies that don't have head damage multipliers. So weapons like the revolver or the sniper rifle are not going to be really that useful for most of it. So instead, I would recommend weapons like the burst cannons, the choke-mod shotgun, and the machine gun. The burst cannon is beautiful for dealing with big chargers, as it only takes 2 shots from the front to kill them, 1 from behind. The choke-mod shotgun, while it goes through ammo pretty quickly, only has 4 rounds in the magazine and doesn't have a lot of ammo reserves, is very nice because it can one-shot regular chargers, and for those of you who know how this level works and the mechanics behind it, 4 rounds in the magazine is just the perfect amount. And then finally with the machine gun, while this weapon isn't amazing for when it comes to dealing with big chargers, and it's fairly okay against regular chargers, it is quite nice for dealing with the large groups of regular strikers and shooters that you will have to deal with during the alarm doors. Overall, I would probably recommend taking 2 burst cannons, 1 choke-mod shotgun, and then 1 machine gun for this level. You can swap this up a little bit if you want to, however, I would highly recommend you have at least 2 burst cannons and 1 choke-mod shotgun, as that's going to make this level a lot easier to deal with. Then when it comes to your tools, I would recommend a bio-tracker, a mine deployer, an auto sentry, and then the 4th tool being either a C-foam launcher or a second sentry. The bio-tracker is going to be quite handy because you have to deal with a lot of dark zones, quite a few foggy zones, you have shadows that you're going to have to deal with, and you also have to deal with an error alarm at one point. All of these are situations where the bio-tracker excels. When it comes to the mine deployer, honestly it's a classic at this point. No better tool to just deal with a ton of enemies all at once if you can barricade them on a door, and trust me when I say you will have many situations in this level where you can do that. You also do have to deal with a tank at one point, so Mine Deployer can help out quite a bit for him. The auto sentry, this is going to be useful because you want stagger power, especially for the ending bit of the level. You have to deal with a lot of chargers and big chargers. Enemies are going to rush you down, and if they get on top of you, are going to mess your day up, especially the big chargers. You have weapons that can deal with them pretty easily, however you don't get that many shots before you have to reload. And the last thing you want is to be in the middle of your reload animation when a big charger rushes up on you and brings you down to the floor. Auto sentry might just buy you enough time to save your life in these type of situations. Then when it comes to the 4th tool, it really just depends on where you think you'll struggle more or where there'll be more difficulty. The first half of the level is mostly just clearing out zones and dealing with a lot of alarm doors. In situations like this, C-foam can be quite handy. Some of these alarm doors have multiple directions enemies can come from, but a lot of them you can easily funnel them to one door, and C-foam is beautiful for just keeping them out until you finish most of the scans, then letting them come in and they all die at once and you don't have to deal with an extra wave or 2. However, the second half of the level, while it does have a few alarms you have to deal with, it's mostly wide open big rooms, a lot of chargers, a lot of big chargers, and not really any doors you can properly C-foam to help with the alarms. For this, maybe you want a second type of sentry. If you do take a second sentry, I would recommend either another auto or a burst. Some people think sniper sentry would be very beautiful, and while it does do a lot of damage and can easily deal with big chargers, a lot of the places where I see people wipe and just go down are places where the sniper sentry just won't help out. Chargers and big chargers rush you down, they don't waste any time trying to kill you. In a lot of situations, that sniper sentry might not have enough time to actually shoot that enemy before it gets out of line of sight. Instead, having an auto sentry for even more stagger power or a burst sentry that does less damage but fires faster might be a bit better. Again though, it really just depends on where you think you'll struggle. I think a Seafoam or a second sentry for your fourth tool are both just as viable, and they both have their pros and cons. Dropping into the level, you'll notice that your main objective is to collect a fog turbine. This fog turbine will always be located inside zone 153. You start off in zone 148. And within a few minutes of going into the level, you may notice a few things. Yes, there are a lot of chargers, that's going to be a constant theme throughout this level, but also there's quite a bit of infectious fog, and you're given a lot, and I mean a lot of fog repellers. Half of the lockers and boxes you open up will probably have fog repellers in it. You're going to want these. There will be a zone you have to go through that is almost completely covered in infectious fog, and you're going to have to spend a fair amount of time in that zone. And seeing how your main objective is to collect a fog turbine, I think it's pretty safe to say that you're not going to get one before that point. So fog repellers are all you have to use. Inside zone 148, you'll also find your first bulkhead key, as well as a door control to the overload zone. Do not put the key into this door control. The correct order to do prisoner efficiency on this level is extreme, then overload, then main. And while you can do overload first, then extreme, then main, it makes the level a whole lot harder, and I would never recommend it. So do not put this key into that door control, just hold on to it. Connected to 148 are 3 security zones, 149, 150, and 151. You need to get to 151, however, this requires a key card that will always be located inside of zone 149 or 150. Zone 149 and 150 are both class 3 alarm doors, and they are quite similar to each other. Let's look at a floor plan for zone 150 first. As you can see, there are 3 entrances of the room that you are in, however, the southern entrance you can completely ignore. As long as all the doors are shut, they will never go down through that small room connected to the south of you, and instead they'll go through one of the other 2 doors, making it pretty easy to set up for this one. However, if you are going to zone 149, this is what your floor plan is going to look like instead. Now again, there are 3 entrances to the room that you're in, however, you can completely ignore that middle door. No matter where they spawn, they will always go for either the top door or the bottom door, and they will never touch that middle one. So again, fairly easy to set up for this. Once you have finished this alarm door, you can then head into the respective zone you need to go to. Both of these are fairly big, they are very dark, and will have a lot of enemies, mostly chargers, so do be careful as it is hard to see them in the darkness. Once you have all the resources you need and the keycard, you can then head to zone 151. This security door is just a full team scan, so no alarm is tied to it. Heading into zone 151, you're going to be finding a lot of spitters, and I mean a lot. They'll be on the wall, the ceilings, the stairs, the cupboards, the shelves, everywhere, so do be a bit cautious of them. Also in zone 151, when you head down the stairs, you're going to notice that there's a lot of infectious fog. This is the zone I was talking about when I said there's one that's almost completely covered by this fog. For that reason, the way you want to go about this is going to be a bit different. What you should do is the same thing you can see me doing in the background footage. Use fog repellers to get to the door connected to the first room, open them up, walk in, shoot, and then run all the way back out. That way all the enemies in those rooms will come with you and you can fight them out in the open and not have to worry about losing a lot of HP to infection. However, do be careful, there is always a scout in this zone. If it's in the very first room, no big deal, you can kill it very easily. Or if it's in the very far back room, you don't have to worry about that either because you won't be pulling that room yet. However, if it is in one of the first 3 rooms, you do need to make sure you kill it before you trigger the rooms completely. Once these rooms are triggered though, you can then head back down and then head to the bulkhead door control as you can see in the background footage. Use the door control to select your extreme objective, then I would say head all the way out of the zone, make sure everybody's got a stack of fog repellers, then you can head to the east side where you'll find your extreme bulkhead door. This is a class 4 alarm door, so let's look at a floor plan for it. As you can see, there's only one room that enemies can spawn in, and they are guaranteed to always go through the same 2 doors, which is very beneficial for you. If you have a Seafoam launcher, I would recommend you Seafoam both of the doors, then place mines on the second one. However, if you went no Seafoam launcher instead of taking 2 sentries, I would recommend shut both doors, place some mines on the second door, and then have your sentries inside with you or on the outside of that second door. That way they shoot enemies either before they break it down or after they break it down. You will be given a lot of fog repellers, so just make sure you keep those up and that the entire room is for the most part pretty clear. It is pretty big, and usually you'll find a locker or 2 inside of this room that'll have more fog repellers in it, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Then once you finish the alarm door and all the enemies are killed, you can then head inside of zone 264. Heading into zone 264, you'll see that your extreme objective is to repair a generator cluster that requires 2 power cells. Zone 264 is just one big room that has the generator cluster as well as a scout and quite a few enemies. Connected to it though is zone 265 and 267. 267 is currently under lockdown and that won't be lifted until you finish the extreme objective, so you have to go to zone 265, which is just a full team scan door. Heading into 265, you will find regular enemies in there, the typical bunch, but you will also find shadows. So do be a bit cautious of this. If you're not comfortable dealing with them, make sure you're communicating with the person with the bio tracker. And if you see a bunch of regular enemies, do not assume there are no shadows because you can get the mix of the two in those rooms. Inside of 265, you will always find your first power cell. You can put this into the generator cluster whenever you want. This will make the fog levels go down and make it a little bit easier going through zone 265 and zone 266. At the far eastern corner, you'll find security door to zone 266. This is a class 5 alarm door that will spawn in shadows and very rarely shadow giants and nothing else. Let's take a quick look at the floor plan. As you can see, there's only one room they spawn in, 2 doors they have to break down to get to you. It's a pretty linear zone. For this, I would recommend just keep the doors seafoamed and mined the entire time. Now, if you don't have seafoam, I would recommend placing your sentries on the outside of the door, and then whoever has a bio tracker stay near that door throughout all the scans after the full team scan. Remember, shadows do not get shot at by sentries unless they are pinged, so if you aren't taking seafoam, then it's either just using mines and shooting them yourself, or if you want to use the sentries, your bio tracker person needs to be by the door to tag them. When you finish this alarm door though, you can then head into zone 266. You're going to want to be a bit cautious going through here because you will find some regular scouts, some shadows, and as well as a few shadow giants, and they can mess up your day quickly if you end up bumping into them. There are also a lot, and I mean a lot of resources back here, so you're going to want to make your way to a terminal, use it, and start pinging where everything is. Whoever's got the bio tracker, make sure you're communicating with your team and you're being cautious. And if things do go poorly, run out of the zone completely and fall back to a better choke point because you have no idea how many rooms might be coming after you, especially if you did set off a scout. Once you have everything you need though, and you have the second power cell, you can then head back to the generator cluster and get ready to deal with the generator cluster alarm. When you put the second power cell into the generator cluster, it's going to do the typical thing of the lights going out and then they'll come back on and a full team scan will appear. However, this is not just going to be a simple full team scan, it's going to be 4 waves of scans. You're going to have a full team scan as well as some small red scans and big red scans that you have to do. Basically, it's a class 4 alarm door. So let's take a quick look at the floor plan for this. Enemies can either come from the west or the east. If they come from the east, there's nothing you can do to buy yourself more time. Yes, there is technically a door you could have used to preserve for this. However, it's not guaranteed enemies come from that direction, so I'd rather use that door for the class 5. But if you want to, you could preserve it for here and now. However, to the west, while it may look like you have 2 doors you can make use of, you want to leave them open. These doors are going to be much better suited for when you have to do the alarm door to the main bulkhead door, so make sure they're open so there's no chance of them getting broken down. The fog levels will still be covering the door, so you will need to use some fog repellers to get out to it, but you should still have some left over. This alarm is basically just open doorways, no doors you can shut, so mines and seafoam are not going to be useful. However, if you want to use your sentries, you can. If you have 2, you can have 1 at each entrance of the room. If you only have 1 though, I would recommend having it to the west entrance because most of the time enemies will come from down there. Once you have finished all the waves of scans and the enemies are all dead, you can then head south to the security door to zone 267. This is just an open security door when you walk up to it. However, do not rush in head first. It may look like a room with a bunch of boxes and no enemies and it's nice juicy loot for you, but there will always be 2 shadow giants in here that will ruin your day if you just walk in headfirst with no regards. So make sure your bio tracker person locates them, and then you can either stealth kill them, or you can just simply shoot them if you want to. Once they are dead though and you have access to the entire room, go through, collect all of your resources, grab your second bulkhead key, and then you can head all the way back to zone 148 to that bulkhead door control there. As you are leaving zone 264, you may notice that all the infectious fog is gone. When you finish the extreme objective, all the fog in the level becomes purified and will raise up quite a bit in elevation. This makes it so that this area down here is now clear and instead a little bit of zone 148 and most of the zones in the overload sector are now covered. However, this isn't too bad to deal with because the fog is no longer infectious, so it's a lot safer to travel through, it's easier to see through, and most of the rooms that it is a part of you can just simply crouch or walk down a few flights of stairs and you should be able to see, so this doesn't really hinder your sight too much throughout the rest of the level. The other thing too is because the fog is gone, you can now go throughout zone 151, kill any enemies that you left behind, and collect any resources you didn't find. Just be careful of the spitters because unfortunately those little buggers are still there. Once you have collected everything in zone 151 though, you can then head back to 148 to the overload bulkhead door control, put your key in, do the scan, and then head over to the overload bulkhead door. Once you have dealt with the overload door control back in zone 148, you can then head over to the overload bulkhead door, do the full team scan, and then head right on in. Inside, you'll see that your overload objective is to find a specific HSU and then retrieve a DNA sample from it. This HSU will be located either in zone 321 or 322. Now the security door to both of those zones are currently offline and will require you to put a power cell into the corresponding generator to power them back up again. There's only one power cell though inside zone 320, so make sure you're putting it into the correct generator before you plug it in. Both zone 321 and 322 are class 5 alarm doors, so let's take a look at the floor plan for both of them. This is what it's going to look like if you're heading to zone 321. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a nasty alarm door. As you can see, there are many different places that they can spawn in, and there's really no way to funnel enemies to one or two specific doors, so all three entrances to your room are valid ways that they can come barging in. So a bit of a more difficult one to prepare for. Again, sentries I would recommend just keep inside with you, that way when they bust in you can use them. And if you are using seafoam, I would just wait until you know which door they're coming from before you start seafoaming things. However, if you're heading to zone 322, this is what your floor plan looks like, and even though there are a lot of different places they can spawn, there's only one central door that leads to your room, making it much easier to defend against. Once you have finished all the scans and you're done with whichever alarm door you have, you can then head into the zone and start looking for the HSU. Now, no matter which one of the two zones you go into, you'll basically be doing the same thing, collecting resources, killing enemies. You will have to deal with a few big chargers, so do be careful of them as they will very quickly ruin your run if you let them get within hugging range of you. And of course, you'll find the HSU you need. There is also an extra power cell in this zone. You don't need to do anything with it. There is no purpose for this power cell. You cannot use it for anything, so just leave it be. But once you find the HSU, make sure you do not finish the full team scan. You can initiate it with no problem, but once you finish it, things are going to start getting hectic, so there's quite a bit of preparation you need to do first. When you finish the full team scan for the HSU, an error alarm will initiate. This will spawn in 4 chargers roughly every 45 seconds. This is why I highly recommended the choke launch shotgun. This weapon is beautiful for this portion. You have 4 rounds in the magazine and every single round can one-shot a charger. Every ammo pack refill will give you about 8 rounds, which basically means every ammo pack charge you get will give your team about 1.5 minutes of safety from these error alarm chargers. This will make things a lot easier, and I would recommend that whoever has your choke launch shotgun or choke launch shotguns should be on the defender team, and they will be the ones who prioritize dealing with the air wave, while the burst cannon people will be your attackers who move forward. Then there are 3 major things you need to do to prepare. First of all, go back and collect every single resource throughout all the zones you've been through. Use your health to get you all up to 100%. Use ammo packs to refill yourself as much as you can without needlessly overcapping. Trust me, you will need every bit of ammo you can manage. And then your tool refill, each tool will need a specific amount in it before you continue. The mine deployer, you're going to want around 9 mines in total. This also includes deployable mines, so if you find 3 deployable mines, you only need 60% of the mine deployer. You're going to want 7 of these to deal with the tank, and then 2 of these to deal with the main bulkhead door's alarm. The blood door to zone 323 will always spawn in 1 tank that's going to come straight out towards you. 7 mines is enough to kill him. Sometimes though it's a little bit iffy and he does miss one of the mines even though all run on top of each other. So I would say maybe place an 8th or a 9th mine, or just be prepared to actually shoot him when he comes out and just finish him off. He won't have much HP if you do have the 7 mines out. Then when it comes to your seafoam launcher, you're going to want about 40% in it. That way you can seafoam 1 door 2 times over for when you do the main bulkhead door. This will buy you enough time to finish it safely, and then the rest of the tool refill can go into your sentry. If you took 2 sentries instead of a seafoam launcher though, it's pretty much the same thing. Have about 9 or 10 mines in total, and the rest of it can go to your sentries. Second thing you should do, go to zone 323's blood door and place your mines in advance. No point in trying to do this while you have chargers coming after you. Do it now. There's a very, very, very small chance that these things will actually get set off prematurely, so you can place them down in advance. That way when you get there, you can just open the door, run out, and then let the tank run through them. And then the third thing you're going to want to do is list zone 154 and 155 for a key. Zone 153 is where your fog turbine will be, but to get to it you need a key card that will be located at either 154 or 155. You might as well figure out where that is now instead of doing it later, because every single second you can save is a precious second indeed. Once you have all this ready though and your team is good to go, you can finish that full team scan and then start running. Alright, so you're on a time crunch now, so let's get moving. You need to run all the way to that blood door as fast as you can. You will have to deal with a wave of charges along the way, but as long as you keep moving and you deal with them quickly, you should be able to get to that blood door before the second wave spawns in and have enough time to deal with the tank. Your mines are already in position, so just open the door, run back, he's already aggro so you don't need to shoot him, and then when he goes to the mines, I would definitely recommend BioTracker ping him, that way you can see if that triangle disappears and he's dead. If it doesn't disappear and he's not dead, spread out a bit and quickly deal with him. He won't have much HP left and 1 or 2 shots from a burst cannon will probably be enough to kill him by this point. Then go in, there's only going to be 1 box in this room or a locker that will have your bulkhead key, no resources, grab it and start running. If you are on pace, around this time the second wave should spawn in, you can either deal with them if they're in front of you or just run past them, ignore them, and get all the way back to the main bulkhead door control. Get down there, do that scan, and then finish that up. Around this point, another wave should have spawned in, so just deal with every single charger that's currently alive, and then I would recommend wait for another wave to spawn in, unless if a wave just spawned in as you were killing off the rest of them. Then, once you are sure no wave will spawn in prematurely, go through, shut the door so like you can see me doing the background footage, and get to the main bulkhead door. Go up, initiate the full team scan, and then get that started. Here is a quick little map overlay for it. As you can see, assuming every door in this zone is preserved and shut and they are not broken down earlier because of scouts or any other means, this is the only door you have to worry about. Every single enemy will funnel to this door. This is why I said you want to have 2 mines for it since it's a bigger door, and then 2 charges of C-foam. C-foam it once initially, wait for it to all break off, and then fully C-foam it again. This will buy you enough time to finish the class 3 alarm door. Once that's done, kill every single enemy, and once they're all dead, your defenders can stay outside while your attackers can then head into zone 152. When it comes to dealing with this part, your attacker or attackers, probably just one attacker in all honesty, should head into 152. Defenders stay outside of the bulkhead door, and then that same long corridor room where the extreme bulkhead door is, rush out there when you hear the airwave spawn in. Because of the way the doors are open and shut, they should still funnel down that just like they did for the alarm door, which will make it very easy to deal with them. And because zone 152 is just one big room, as long as you're standing near the bulkhead door when the wave spawns in, there's no chance of it spawning in there. The attacker, have fun with the zone. In here you will always have to deal with 1 scout and 6 big chargers as well as a few regular chargers. The only thing I can really give you for advice is go for that scout immediately. You might be able to stealth your way to it and melee kill it. Maybe you'll have a good position where you can just shoot it and run out of there. Just keep in mind that if you are in the middle of it and then you trigger something, you might as well consider yourself dead because there's a small chance of you actually getting out of that room before the big chargers rush you down and kill you. But if you can kill the scout and get out, you're in a good position. When that happens, you can then rush out to the main bulkhead door, use that as a funnel point. Have your sentry or sentries facing towards it to stagger the big charges when they come through. Burst cannons, prioritize the big chargers. Choke mod shotgun or machine gun, focus on the regular chargers. Also be careful if a wave spawns in behind you during this. If a new air wave spawns in, it will be from behind you and they will come down that corridor path just like they normally do. Choke mod shotgun people, you need to prioritize killing them. Let the people with the burst cannon deal with the big chargers. You need to make sure that the extra wave of chargers doesn't sneak up behind you. But if your timing is good and you finish this room quickly, you won't have to worry about that. Once you have killed every single enemy, you can head into zone 152, collect your resources, and then you'll find 3 security doors. 1 to 153, 154, 155. As I said earlier, 153 is where you need to go, but you need a key card to get into it. That key card is either 154 or 155. 154 is just a simple open door security door, while 155 is a full team scan security door. I would recommend head over to it. If you need to do the full team scan, do it. If not, wait for a wave to spawn in. There are 2 major ways to deal with zone 154 and 155. You can either do the attacker defender method where you have your attackers go in and then your defenders will just stay in the first room of the zone and then rush out to meet the airwave if they do spawn behind you. That way their gunshots don't pull any of the other rooms. Or you could just simply pull room one by one, and that way you could just deal with everything out in the open in zone 152. This really just depends on how you're doing for health and ammo. If you're doing a little bit poorly on ammo, then you might want to try the stealth method. But if you're doing really good and you have a few ammo packs left over, you can definitely just pull the rooms. However, I would at least recommend get to the terminal first before you do that. In one of the zones, the terminal will be in the very first room, and the other zone is going to be in the room to the right of the first room. I would recommend just go for it, get to the terminal, and figure out exactly where your key card is. You might get lucky and that thing might be in one of the very first few rooms, or it might be in the far back. If it's in one of the very first rooms though, you don't need to be pulling every single one, and you don't want to be wasting your time by doing that. Once you get that key card though, you can get out of that zone. There's only a med pack and ammo pack. Most of the time it's not even worth it to grab them, but if you are desperate for resources, you can go for them. Once you have that key card though, you can head to zone 153 security door and get ready to deal with that, because it is going to be a class 5 alarm door. Like I said, zone 153's security door is a class 5 alarm, and this one is a bit of a nasty one. Here's a floor plan for this alarm. You may notice I have zone 154 and 155 open. Obviously you're only going to have one of the two zones open, you won't have both of them, so disregard the one that is still shut for you. I would recommend that if you have just one sentry, face it towards 154 or 155, whichever one of the twos you open. And if you have two sentries, face one towards one of those two zones and the other one facing out towards zone 151. You're going to have quite a few enemies you have to deal with. This alarm can either be really nice and the scans won't go that far, or they're going to go all the way throughout the room and then back multiple times, and it's going to take forever to finish it. During this alarm, I highly recommend focus down the chargers above all else. Chargers are enemies you can't really kite that effectively. If you can actually make it so that there's nothing but regular strikers and shooters, you can at least kite it a bit better than you could if there were chargers in the mix. But try to stay grouped, stay together, cover each other's backs, and just do the best you can to deal with this alarm. Mines and seafoam aren't really going to be that helpful, just because even though there are doors you can shut in seafoam, you probably won't have much seafoam or mines left over, and really by the time you actually run out there to place them down and then you run back, either they're already going to get blown up by the airwave, or there's such a small chance they'll get set off anyway just because of the amount of locations enemies can actually spawn from. However, once you finish this alarm door, you can then head into zone 153. And then finally with zone 153, the best way to deal with this is to just have one person head in and then have the other three people stay sort of towards the middle of zone 152 and then wait to hear where the airwave spawns in and then rush to meet them, and preferably try to shoot and kill them outside of zone 152. Obviously that might not happen depending on how quickly the wave gets to you, but just try to be far away from zone 153 security door, that way you don't accidentally trigger the room. Inside zone 153 you will find a scout, multiple big chargers, a disinfect station, which honestly doesn't really serve much purpose at this point because it's not like you're going to want to go in there and disinfect, and then the fog turbine. The fog turbine is usually pretty easy to find inside the zone, but if not, there is a terminal that you can use to find it. Once you get it, pick it up and get out of there. Again, there is an ammo pack and a med pack in the zone, but if you have to go near a big charger to get it and there's a hack lock on it, probably not worth your time and it's too much of a risk. This zone has a lot of big chargers, usually about 4 or so in here, and you really don't want to tick these things off as well as that scout. It's best to just sneak your way through and not kill any of the enemies if you can get away with it. With that fog turbine though, you're going to head all the way back to the beginning where you dropped in. Thankfully, picking up the fog turbine will not initiate any new type of alarm, so you just have to deal with the charger error wave while you're heading out. However, you do have to deal with an extraction alarm. When you put the fog turbine into this extraction circle, it will initiate a proper alarm that will spawn in nothing but waves of chargers after chargers after chargers. And this can get pretty difficult because by this point, you're probably running a bit low on ammo. I would just say if you have any mines, place them down. Seafoam, even if it's only like 2%, spray it on the floor. Sentries, place them down in front of you to stagger enemies. And if you do not have any ammo left, if you are somebody who has completely run out of ammo in both guns, I would recommend run and try to be bait. Try to drag the enemies through some of the side rooms and take them with you. That way not as many of them go for extraction. Yes, you are basically killing yourself by running into a group of chargers, but who knows, you might save your team the last few precious seconds they need to fully extract. However, once you get that extraction circle to 100%, you have beaten R4C3 on prisoner efficiency. As always, if you have any tips or tricks for this level that you want to share, any questions for me, or you just have something in general that you want to say, leave it down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, then consider hitting that like button. It helps out the channel and it helps these videos get noticed by people who really need them. And if you want to become part of this community, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. Until next time, embrace the love of the chargers. It will do wonders for your health. And I'll see you all in the next video.